Network Entertainment.
And welcome to my podcast, the RJ Ledesma Podcast. In my podcast, I like to speak to business owners, entrepreneurs, and visionaries to learn more about how they think about doing business, what are their success secrets, and can we replicate those success secrets in our own businesses and even in our own lives. And today, I find some kindred spirits here in the podcast, people who are quote-unquote serial entrepreneurs just like myself. Welcome again to Kate Hancock and Daniel Robbins. Guys, thanks so much for joining us here on the show. Thanks so much.
RJ, always
Thank
a pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Honored to be here.
I'm really happy to have you guys over here, and I had the pleasure of working with them recently for their TEDx talk. They actually brought TEDx talks here to Manila. And for people who might not be too aware about TEDx talks, can you share with us a bit more what it's about and why it's so significant that we finally brought these talks here in Manila? Because they're not only speaking here, they're speaking on a global stage.
Yeah, so TEDx, it's a format that's global and it's very serious. And believe it or not, a lot of my friends in the US, 90% of them get rejected that you're not qualified to be a speaker. It's very hard to get in.
I see.
And so it's a short talk. It's a presentation, but not a keynote. It's really curated into one core idea. And that's very difficult for the Filipino speaker because we're used to talking a lot of things, right? Honing one message that's impactful to the audience is what TED Talk is all about. So we're very excited to bring it here because the reason why is I want to elevate thought leaders in the Philippines. Maybe they will be the next Simon Sinek or Brene Brown. So we're looking and elevating that voice, to expand in the global stage.
Fantastic. Tell us a bit more of the journey of bringing TEDx talks here to the country. How is it like for you?
It's been really fun. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, it's like Kate was saying, it's one big idea. And with that big idea, what kind of impact on a global stage can that have? So I think one great thing is obviously people here in the country can watch it. But then the other one is this can give global exposure to people like yourself. You gave a talk. There's 40 million people, over 40 million people are on the subscription of the YouTube of TEDx. So when you give a talk from the Philippines, whatever you're saying, that could resonate with somebody in Africa, in Europe, in the US, and other parts of the world. So it's giving not just visibility for people here, but giving people here visibility and a voice for the world.
Wow. So it's really a lot about thought leadership in different areas, whether
Yes.
it's in business motivation, psychology, spirituality. I mean, there's so many different topics that you have over here. And this is going to be your second TED Talks here in the Philippines, which is coming out during September 8th. Who are some of the Filipino speakers whom you found that you brought over there that have been very, very enigmatic or very charismatic when they've given talks?
Yeah, so, well, of course, the last one, you're there, right?
Thank you, yeah.
This set, we have Marvin Agustin. He's super
Marvin,
excited.
yeah.
Yeah, super excited to share his story. We have Eric Aquino. She's a VC globally. We have actually, I want to say this. I'm not only highlighting thought leaders. I have one volunteer that's passionately worked behind the scene. And so it's really her dream to speak on TEDxForbesPark. And so, you know what? You've worked so much. And as long as your talk is within the guidelines of TEDx. So we're very excited. So we have a 15-year-old from Silicon Valley speaking this time as well. So he's flying in. So we're very excited, very diverse. We kind of wanting it to be mixed with local and international. So we really wanted audience, to open your minds with diverse topic. And sometimes it makes you very uncomfortable if you don't really agree with what the speaker is, talking about, but there's beauty into different opinion. And that's kind of what I wanted to achieve, launching and curating TEDxForbesPark here in the Philippines.
Yeah. Very interesting because it's not in the way that you look. I'm looking at it here right now. It's not, you're doing it here in the Philippines, but you're actually having guests or speakers flying in from all over the world. Is that right? So they actually jockey for a seat to be in a TEDx talk. Is that right?
Yeah, we actually have 70 70 people waiting to be accepted. So it is a really big deal in the US, or even in the UK. It's very hard to get in. And so I think, most local don't recognize that how important that is in building the thought leadership and really sharing your message to a global stage. It is a big deal, because if you search yourself, the first thing that come up is your TED Talk. If
Yes,
you
that's right,
Google
that's right,
yourself.
that's
So
right.
it's high visibility, really building thought leadership. And of course, if you want to share a story of creating impact in the world, this is the stage of the cream of the crop of the stage.
And
That's
another
right.
thing too, I mean, it's so important that it's community, right? So of course, there's the global stage in the sense that, and everyone around the world can watch it on YouTube or online, but there's going to be 100 people that can go to it, and those people in this community in Forest Park in Manila, maybe they're going to learn something that they didn't know. And maybe they're going to be inspired by somebody to then make a change, make impact that they didn't even think, because we only know what we know in the bubble that we live. So it's a great way for because really it's all about the community.
Fantastic. Now, as you've closed off the set of speakers for September, right? But you're going to have another one coming up next year. Is that
Yes. Oh, we have one in December.
in December
Like I said,
as well?
yeah, December 8th is coming up. And we already have a lot of excited speakers wanting to apply. So really, it's a nonstop. I think we're going to be doing 4 in the next 12 months. So
Wow.
back to back to back.
And if you're looking for speakers, like especially Filipino speakers who want to participate and have thoughts or ideas that are worth sharing, as TEDx often says, what are you looking for in terms of the speakers? Because some of them are thinking, I have a really great idea, but I'm not a great public speaker, or they're great public speakers, but they don't have great ideas.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit more as to what are you looking for when you're getting a TEDx speaker, and if it's not a good idea, do you help him through the process of becoming a better speaker to present over here?
Yes. And so I'm really looking for something different that's so unique that we don't hear it all the time. Like, yeah, we love to hear rag to riches story. It's very common, but something very different that spark your mind. Like, oh, I never thought of that. Do I really have to deal with it? Do I have a narcissistic mother? Or how do you deal with that? What is monogamy or something? Or even in tech, like I never thought of that idea. So it has to be something different. At the same time, within the TED Talk guideline, again, it's very hard. Like for me, for my TED Talk, I have to hire a script writer, and
I
he's
see.
very expensive. And it would cost you at least $500,000
wow.
just a writer. And then on top of that, I have to practice an hour every minute of me speaking. So it is really a responsibility and commitment to deliver a TED Talk. And some people panic. And at least for me, when I prep my TED Talk, I don't want to talk to Dan for the 30 days. I'm like in a cocoon because I want to deliver it correctly and my posture. So we help our, speaker polish. You need to have, you talk too much, you deliver it, do the dramatic pause. So now we're helping polishing our speaker. Not only you need to have a great talk written within guidelines, how are you going to deliver it? Because our audience here, some of them like, oh my God, it's my dream to watch a TEDx talk. And so we want to make sure that it's worth their time. They're spending half a day listening. So is this speaker really worth it to listen? So those kind of mix. It is actually intense.
Yeah. What are the guidelines? Like, what are the sort of TEDx Talks guidelines that you need to keep in mind when you're actually going to speak for them? Are there?
Yeah, normally you can't do heavily self-promotion. And if you're doing a claim, make sure you have citation to it. Like, are you really sharing, the right thing? Is that you can factually check it. You can't talk about, cigarettes and all of that. Like, and then it really, you can't really do promoting your company or self. Like, you kind of craft it in a way that you're storytelling, but part of the bigger idea. So it has to really blend in and curate it in the right way.
Got that. And for Filipino speakers who would like to offer that they think they got a message or an idea that they want to share, how do they approach the TEDx team here?
Yeah, so you can just go to TEDxForbesPark.com. We have a link there where you can apply. And we actually asked our speaker to send us a 10 minutes video of their talk. And so that's very difficult because you really have to master it, because then we have 70 people applying. Who's going to be really the best? And not only you're the best, but does your talk really resonate? Because we kind of match different speaker and the theme, so we don't want it to be repetitive. So there's so many things. It's an art and science to blend it together.
Very interesting. And one of the more interesting things is that the first time that I actually encountered both of you guys was during the pandemic online, when you had the Pod Asia Awards, I think. And that's right, that's right, where I first encountered you. And you have a company called IBH Media, is that correct?
Yes.
So tell me a bit more about that one, and what brought you here to this part of the world with IBH Media.
Yeah. So about 5.5 years ago, we set on a personal mission, because I think what goes wrong is many people have a business mission, but if your business goes under, then they're left. That's always the story we hear. It goes under, they sell it, they don't know what to do in life. So when the pandemic hit, we thought, okay, what could be a personal mission? And then I want to map everything around that mission. So that was to impact 100 million people around the world. And so we said, okay, how can we impact people? Something I noticed that was a miss is there's many amazing people that have great stories, that are doing great things, but nobody knows about them. We know, like, personal branding, online presence is so important, but there's how many billions of people don't know that or don't know how to do that. So our goal was to basically amplify the voices and stories of other people to then impact and inspire other people, right? So it's like amplification of impact, essentially. And so we do that through different media, attention, getting people attention. We also created different media outlets, like we have a show like yourself. We have actually a variety of shows that we produce and create, with the whole goal is just to amplify people and their voice.
And Dan, I'm your number one client, because actually Dan is the one pitching me to everywhere. And I have to say, RJ, my TED Talk actually got picked by American Express, and they hired me as a speaker because they saw it. It was a very specific topic, and it was timely at that time. So that's one thing to, TED Talk and media and PR kind of blends in together at the same, in kind of way that, makes sense. And if that's I think people always think about how can I make it, you see all this TED Talk that make it to 10 million views, right? 2 million views. So sometimes timely talking about something what's current, it's very helpful, and it gives, brands, big brands, give you visibility. Okay, you are that person that can talk about this. And so that actually happens to me, and that's why I really want to build that TEDx.
And you see how it's become, how it resonates for you has become, how it's built yourself as a personal brand. But I also think it's very important that, when you're speaking, if it's meaningful and relevant to you, you're able to communicate it and it resonates with people. That's what really comes out when you build a brand. I guess you can see that from people. Tell us a bit more about how you've built here in Asia, particularly here in the Philippines. I think there were awards they were giving out. I remember that's when I applied for the award for the pod. One of the pod awards, right? That's right.
Yeah. So if you go back to it, the best phrase that people say is, "I see you everywhere."
Yeah.
So I'm sure you know that, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like people, I see you everywhere. I see you're doing a lot of things. It creates this perception, and then people want to be a part of it. They want to talk to you. They want to do business with you. If people, I think the worst thing is if nobody knows who you are. If you provide services and such, then how are you going to get clients? How are you going to get customers? So yeah, that was just the awards was just a very small piece. But we originally came here. We wanted to do an event, which was great. Really learn about what's happening here. Also, we were building other things in this area, and I just was really interested in just the growth and everything that was going on in Southeast Asia, specifically the Philippines, just seemed amazing.
Well, we didn't even know about BGC exists until 2022. It's like, what? This place exists? It's like, this is actually cool. And so that's when it started.
Wow,
why don't we do? So we didn't really know that it exists.
We stayed at the Shangri-La in BGC. We didn't know what it was, right? We just stayed there. And because I think we were about to go to the island, but that time you had to stay in Manila as a tourist.
That's right.
For a certain amount of time before you
That's
went.
right,
So
that's
we're like,
right.
okay, let's stay at the Shangri-La. Seems nice. We stayed there, and I remember waking up for breakfast and I'm sitting down in the breakfast area, and I look out the window. I'm like, wait a minute. am I back in California? And I realized like, oh wait, I'm in the Philippines. Like because of how it looks, it was just blew my mind. Like this is a very fascinating place among different parts of Manila, and it just amazed me. And then when you go to the island, there's just something about going to the island and the feeling you get. And
Which island is this?
Come again. Well, you've been in and out since 2015 in the Philippines, but normally we just, do a
short
layover in Manila and then fly to the island to see my family. But
This time we were staying for longer, and it was just like, like you go through pandemic. You're like we wanted to be free, wanted to be outside. Like at that time, we wanted to, we were like sheltered for so long. So it's like, I want to go and be free, and I want the air, and I want to feel and I think for the last few years for me, like feeling, there was so much stress and there was just so much things that were happening that were negative. It's like, I want to be positive. I want to focus on health, my mindset. Like I want to focus on these things, and what better way than come to the Philippines and really enjoy the moment.
And see our team. We have 50 people team in Camiguin working in his hospitality, and we've utilized a lot of our staff, even running an e-commerce business back in 2012. We were early on.
Very, very interesting. So, if you take a step back, and I want people to appreciate as they're listening to this podcast, initially I came across them both for IBH Media and TED Talks, but when you peel the layer back, you're seeing that they are just, they're serial entrepreneurs, and that's a story which I really wanted to get people to appreciate as I spoke to you. What's more interesting for me in this story is that, first of all, you're what I call a balikbayan entrepreneur. And that's something that's very interesting. And we're going to go into that in a bit. And Dan, you're looking from the lens of somebody who's who's not from the Philippines, but you're seeing the opportunity here in the country as well. And I was hoping to delve into that as well in this podcast. Now, I want to take a step back a bit more and talk a bit more about your story, Kate, because yours is very interesting. We talked offline earlier on. You said that you grew up over here and you went to the States, and it looks like you did well by yourself while you were there. Tell us a bit more about your story. You were here, grade school, high school, college.
Yes, all the way, and migrated to the United States early in 2000. And
what was your background over here? Did you take obviously
no?
People,
Yeah, I know.
Nursing,
I wish
right?
I'm a nurse.
No.
No.
Nursing, computer science, business.
No, it's just I finished psychology, and so family migrated to the U.S.
That's your whole family. You were a migrant
yes,
family, literally.
Correct. Yeah, I have family of nurse, but I'm not a nurse.
But you had relatives there, right?
Yes,
I guess they just said, okay, American dream, just go there and get a job, right?
Yes, and I have to say, I have a culture shock in the beginning. Like, what the heck? This is not what I was expecting. It's like no one really talk. You don't have a community. This is totally culture shock. But I did start at the bottom. Dan, you've seen me. I was, SNR. I was giving food sample at SNR. That's that kind of job. And then I worked for the Estee Lauder company, and I learned how to run their marketing. I helped scale a skincare company they used to be it's a smaller company in Irvine, California, and I was just a sales rep. And then in 6 months, they promoted me to be a regional manager. I was like, I don't even know how to lead, so I scrambled. But I helped them scale to several millions dollars of business.
You were a salesperson at the start.
I was a salesperson,
and then eventually they put you in management.
Yes, okay. Right away. And so I was traveling around the country, helping them get visibility to retail. So I did that. And then I actually asked for a raise. I said, look, I made you guys so much money. I need a raise. And they said no. I said, okay, well, I'm going to quit anyway then. But before quitting, actually, I started scanning while working in the skincare job. So this is Costco, like SNR in the Philippines. It was a boring day. It's in Austin, Texas. And I saw a clearance item, and I started listing it on Amazon. So I listed an item. It was anything in Amazon that starts with 0, ends with 0 is a clearance item. So I listed it, and I sold 2 items that day. So I bought a box and a tape at Staples, pack it and ship. And So that was my $20 because I don't really have to buy the item. I only buy it when someone buys
like
from
drop
Amazon.
shipping, almost like
Yes,
drop
it's
shipping,
like
right?
it's a product arbitrage. And in 6 months, I sold $500,000 doing that. And
Clearance items, just buying clearance items.
yes. And so I quit my job. I told my boss, I can't work for you anymore. I actually tried to resign twice. And he said no because I was so valuable, I was so hardworking. But it's like, no, I can't focus because I was working for the skincare company. I was packing and shipping in my car, going to the post office and drop it off. Like, no, I can't do this because I made so much more money doing my product arbitrage, my side hustle.
So your hustle's doing better than your main job, right?
Absolutely. And then in a year, I sold $1 million with no capital.
Wow.
So it was definitely, I was in the right time at the right place. Well, I definitely have some background working for SLR company, seeing the different skincare. So I know what consumer wants. And I was blown away. Like I've never made so much money in my entire life. And every time it ding, I have a sale, I make $50, $20, $100. Can you just imagine from not having much growing up in the Philippines, like, oh my God, this is the first time I've seen so much money in my bank account.
Wow.
So it was a blessing.
So you were working for SNR, then you moved to Estee Lauder. Is that right?
I was working both. It was in the
so
U.S. You can do
you
you
part-time
can do a
jobs
lot
for
of
days.
freelance.
Also,
Yeah,
you're doing both, and then you were making a lot from one of the jobs, and eventually that's when you're able to gain a lot from your drop shipping.
correct. And so I was selling different brands, and over time I sold $20 million doing that.
Wow, just doing the drop shipping, posting things on Amazon.
Yes.
What products were you selling?
Beauty products. And then I would buy pallets and pallets of items. I would call different Costco all over California. Hey, do you have this item number 612? And they said yes. And I said, save me a pallet. They look at me like, what is this crazy lady buying pallets? So I have to buy a big SUV to accommodate the demand. Then after that, I need to have a warehouse. It's so funny, RJ. Even my neighbor, she complained because I worked 13 hours a day because it was just only me. Can you imagine? And only me fulfilling $500,000 business of products and orders. And I would pack and ship nonstop. I'm probably faster than AI. I'm not sure if that's true statement at this point. But my neighbors would complain that the cracking of my tape disturbs her at night. And so she's like, you can't do that in your garage. So then I become mature and have my own warehouse and I have my own retail. So that was my beginning story.
Wow, so you started from, I love it, from sales lady to becoming a millionaire drop shipper over there.
Hey, his name is Chico Garcia,
And his name is Gino Killiamore.
and together we are Only Fun.
That's right, for only $12 a month.
But if you're willing to pay, why not? No, we're from a podcast that talks about movies, TV shows. Basically, we do reviews of K-dramas, whatever is on streaming, whatever is on cinemas. We also get to occasionally interview celebrities, actors, directors.
And of course, infused with our own witty brand of humor and slice of life.
Wow. I guess we don't infuse a lot.
Check it out.
And so what happened after that point? So, okay, great. You could have stayed, I mean, the way that I'm looking at it, you could have stayed in this business. And what year was this around?
This is 2012 all the way to even up to now, but it becomes so competitive. It's not what it used
Exactly,
to.
because other people can now get
Yeah.
can get into the space, and there's nothing that sort of keeps them
Correct.
out now. at this
Well,
point.
the thing is with Amazon, this is the thing that you have to understand. When you work with a big giant, when they have your data at any time, they can take it away from you, which you'll see it, right? Like any apps that you're working with, you only have enough runway to have a good run. I made a lot of money in 10 years of doing that, which is good. But eventually it won't last forever, because what's happening is the big giant, they would say, well, why are you making the money? We can do this exactly the same. We have your data, we have your customer. Why do we need you for? And so they'll squeeze you out. And that's why I highly recommend for any entrepreneur, you really need to own your own data. You can't build a house on a rented land. I mean, you can wing it in the beginning, make the most of it, but nothing lasts forever. So
That's right.
big learning.
Interesting. So, as you're running this business, okay, so it's running. You've made some money from it. What did you do next? Did you stay in this business, or did you open another business? And I know that you also have something here in the Philippines. So tell us a bit more. How did you move
So
from there?
I was dabbling into real estate in the U.S. We have a few Airbnbs. Dan and I acquired Airbnb in the winery, and we exited. I have a few plot of lands that I was very creative. RJ, like any other entrepreneurs, especially Filipino entrepreneurs, we get very bored, right? It has to be very, at least in my own experience, I get very, I can't last in a business for a long. Like at one point, I'm bored doing this. It's becoming so repetitive. I want to hand it off to my team. And now I recognize in the first few years, I want to build it out. But at scale, if I have SOPs and it can run without me, then that's great business. I'm going to hand it off to my team. So now I dabbled into, I really like developing properties, not in a bigger scale, but in a scale that works for me, that I have a good work-life and balance. That's still meaningful, that I don't have to report to someone else. And I feel good about that, having a freedom and financial stability. And the thing that as long as I don't have to report to someone else, I'm good with that.
Well, you have to report to each other, I guess, because...
As long as I'm the boss, I'm good.
Oh, well, I guess that's the same thing my wife says. As long as I'm the boss, and that's good. So, eventually, well, I want to find out first, how did you guys get together? So, I mean, both business-wise and I guess relationship-wise, how did this work out?
Yeah, so Dan and I actually used to work. I mean, we've been friends for 20 years now, maybe more than that. Dan and I used to work for doing activation of opening brands in the US, like, for example, a brand, what is that? Del Monte. They want to do a test, Tropicana. They want to test what product works in the market. And so I would get this gig to travel around the country and say, like, hey, do you need some jobs? So I would recommend Dan, but he would call me like, I don't know how to do this crap. I was like, why don't you just read your manual? But so we worked together in the past, and even in the beginning in the Amazon, when I was just starting doing business in Amazon, the first few months, sometimes they would hold your money like any other PayPal. Sometimes, like, so at one point they froze $10,000 of my funds. So technically, Dan is my first investor, because like, hey, they hold $10,000 of my fund. Can you lend me some money? So I guess he's my first investor. But I paid him right away.
Good investment, Dan. Good investment. I can see from that over there. Very interesting. And then, so eventually, I want to chart the story. So from doing the drop shipping, started doing real estate. But I guess the question is, you're doing right now. You're establishing yourself in AI. You've been doing a lot with the Global AI Council, and you sort of you're planting more of your feet here in the Philippines. So tell me, what's the journey that eventually brought you back here, and what opportunity did you see over here? Because many I guess many people, when they move to the States, they don't, and they make it good over there. They don't really see the opportunity of doing anything over here, because, they're happy over there. But what was the lens that you're looking at to say, hey, the Philippines is a good opportunity to look at now, especially since, your ideas, if you grew up in outside of Manila, you're not looking at Manila. You're looking, I guess, at your place. What is your perspective?
Yeah, so early 2015, I think I started I just created this tiki hut where I have a place in Camiguin as a vacation property, very small, just one room with a pool overlooking with the ocean. And I listed it through Airbnb, and I was booked 6 months in advance. Like, wait a minute, I have opportunity here. So I built another room underneath that tiki hut, and I built 4 rooms. And then eventually I ran out of space. So I built another property in the mountain. Now we have 12 rooms. And so it becomes a scalable, profitable business for me without me being there. And that's a very good business. Sometimes entrepreneurs don't understand the amount of time you're putting into your business. You're actually not making money if you calculate how much money do you make an hour. But if you work there and slave, you're technically not making money. A good business is if it runs without you, then that's a solid business. And that's what excites me in the Philippines, aside from being profitable, the fact that I can employ as many Filipino and develop them as a leader. I'm very happy with that. I think for us, for Dan and I, it's really all about impact, what we can give back. And, employment is a big thing. And that's the reason why we're here in the Philippines.
Very interesting. And for you, Dan, like for yourself, you're married to Kate, but at the same time, you're also seeing opportunities here that you haven't seen in the States. What is the thing that you saw, coming over here that you saw? Oh, this is a very interesting opportunity for us to work over here.
Yeah. So I mean, like she's saying, hospitality I think is huge. Obviously, it's there's so many up and coming islands. Like she saw Siquijor 7 years ago, and now it's like one of the hottest islands. Yeah. So I think there's so much hospitality growth. It's not like Thailand or Bali. It's pretty much those are like overcrowded places. There's so many, I think, hospitality type businesses that can be done here in the country. On top of we're seeing so many food, and I mean, there's a lot of things, but obviously not everything is, like she's saying, super profitable, right? But what I look at right now, like if I was to say so on right now, I think there's a major opportunity with AI. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because I think AI is almost creating a leveling playing field. I'll give you an example. Let's say before you wanted to design an app and it would cost you $40,000 US. How many people can do that? Even in the US, how many people? And then how many people here? Not many. Now for $40 US, you can make it yourself in 15 minutes. So I think if you learn how to use the tools that exist, I think a lot of people here can create businesses that are not just focused on even the market here, but you can easily make a business that's globally focused. I was just looking at a list of all these companies. It used to be, Silicon Valley is where all the unicorns and all these companies came out of. I was just looking at a list recently about Africa, Europe, Asia, like all these other places where these companies are rising from, and everyone around the world is using them, which is amazing because before it'd be so much to create a company, so much to market the company, even the ability, like there's so much know-how, and now a very small team can do something and you don't have to even focus on, like you're saying, it doesn't have to be Manila only or province only or Philippines only. You could make a global company for a few $100 or a few thousand pesos. To me, that's kind of insane.
I know that right now you've been actually sponsoring or conducting a class called Vibe Coding. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so that's like similar to what I'm saying now is think of it like having your own CTO, your chief technical, or having a developing team with you that is AI doing it for you. So you just basically tell it what you want and it creates whatever that is for you. Now, maybe, most developers will say, oh, it's not great. It's not 100%, but nothing is ever starting at 100%. You know how it is. You start at sometimes 50%, test the market before you go to 100%, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a great starting point.
And the cost, think about that. Used to creating an app, you need to have at least $250,000 to start. But this one, you can do it for $10 or $200 at max.
You're teaching people how to create apps.
Yeah, this is Vibe.
Yeah.
Vibe Coding is really
It could be creating apps,
websites.
It could be creating websites. It could be creating platforms. Like you could create the next blank blank, right? The next of something in your basement or in your home. And you don't need this huge team and people to do it. You can do it yourself without even knowing any development. So it's like, think of you have an idea and whatever that idea is. But again, there's a good and the bad. The great thing is more people can do it. The challenge becomes now it's very competitive because everyone can do it. So I would advise figure out a problem that you want to solve based on like what Kate was saying. She knew skincare. So when she went to the market, she knew, okay, more people want to get skincare readily available on Amazon, and no one's really doing it. So I know, so that was the big problem she solved. I think a lot of people, though, they do something that they're not
Trendy.
really solving
has-
a problem.
yeah.
So it's not sustainable.
Yeah, I think solving a problem and really the right timing, you need to be very good at it and know when to exit too. Because I think when people is super passionate about their business, and even though they're not profitable and they stayed on end for so long and waste a lot of time, and you miss a lot of opportunity. At least for me, I don't do that. Like if I don't see traction within 3 years, then this is not worth it my time. Because then you can figure out what really makes sense. Because sometimes you're passionate about creating a restaurant, but if you're killing yourself working the dishwasher, the cooking, the manager, then you're basically a slave, right? Entrepreneurship and business gives you freedom. At least that's how I see things. But if you're working, killing yourself, and not making money, you're gonna destroy your relationship, to community, to your friends, because you don't have time, and then you're just grumpy.
That's right.
What's the point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people don't know their finances in business. It's probably one of the biggest hurdles that people hit. I could be doing 10 million US dollars in revenue.
But how much money left in the
Yeah,
bank?
but if my profit margin is 0.5% or negative, right? I think a lot of people don't, they look at the revenue, but they're not looking at the profit, the net in the end of the day.
Yeah.
Exactly. Very interesting. Your own journeys, I see. As you think this like entrepreneurs, I can very much empathize with Kate. In Tagalog, magulo yung isip, diba? Your mind's everywhere. You're good at a lot of ideas, but you need somebody you can implement. You can start them off, but you actually need somebody else to run the business over here. And then you're also sort of always looking for what's the next big thing that I can create and that I can develop and share. Which you did with IBH. There was a personal mission for you. The personal mission for IBH, I guess, was that what can I do to help amplify people? I guess vibe coding is also another way to amplify people, but just using a different means to go about it. And you've got a lot of opportunities that you're seeing here in the country. Can you share with me some business opportunities, maybe that you're seeing from your perspective that we can't see, that maybe other entrepreneurs in the Philippines can benefit from?
Yeah, RJ, this is your expertise because you're into food, but I'm fascinated by asking some people that owns restaurant that their profit margin is way higher than in the US. Like in the US, the average profit margin to run a restaurant is about 5%. And so you really need to have a volume to make money. And with how, regulations and taxes work there, it doesn't make sense. So in the US, I would never touch a restaurant because you just basically, like I said, you'll be the slave. You're never going to get out of it. You're never going to make money unless you're just doing it for passion, right? A lot of actually opportunity, I think in the Philippines, you can really win if you're super good into creating experience and building that loyalty. There's still a place for that. But I think you need to be very strategic to a place where you don't have that much competition. I think we're very smart into, creating good to what's there, but making sure that you dominate that space, that you don't have a lot of competition. But there's a lot of room to play with any industry. I think there's always, you can always win with a good leadership and good customer experience. And I think there's still a lot of, even in a crowded place, when I'm fascinated by how many businesses in Manila, like, oh my God, how does everyone's here and opening doors, right? Like, it's great because that can, a simple mom and pop can still thrive, but at scale, you still can do it if you do it well. I think having a really good process and building that customer experience, I think is the key. And here it's very loyalty based. I think being really good at what you do, you still can win no matter where you are in the world.
Got that. How about yourself, Dan? Are you seeing opportunities here? I know you said tourism. You said there's a place in Siquijor. You say you're developing property in Siquijor right now. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So no, I think from the people that I talk to, that they're solving some sort of problem. Maybe it's logistics, or maybe they look at like, okay, I realized I can't get this product. How can I solve it? Obviously some of these things will require large amounts of capital or connections to different people. But I think when I look at the people here that are solving problems, it's solving a problem in whatever industry, right? Maybe it's, maybe it's medical, or maybe it's something else, and maybe it's not, like she's saying, maybe it's not you open another restaurant because it's so crowded, but maybe the restaurants that you know have a problem. Maybe their software doesn't work, or maybe, you know, something that they need. So what I would say is look at like what exists, find out what problem within those, but don't create the same thing that your neighbor or everyone else is doing, like shiny object, because then it's so crowded. But really just finding these problems. I think there's so many problems around us that technology is solving, and not a lot of people, let's say companies, are even using technology. Probably like Gcash solved a major problem, right? You don't have to carry cash anymore, even on, you know, certain islands or provinces and places. You know, that's like a major problem solved. But you know, obviously that's huge. But maybe, you know, start small.
Really great ideas, guys. You know, this has been an interesting conversation, and we could go on and on with this one. And I'm really so inspired by what you guys are doing over here. It's like you sort of like, you know, you've been doing well in the US, and you said there's still even more opportunity here in the country. And there's a lot to gain, especially from your own insights, where you came from, province girl, sales lady, built your own company, doing stuff over here. You, from your own background as well, Dan, coming over here and you know, building your own companies here as well. If there's some insights that you want to share with up and coming entrepreneurs, some things that you wish you knew as you were coming up, what would be those pieces of advice that you want to share with them?
I think really get a mentor. I think there's the value of someone who's done it, learned the mistakes, could really save you a lot of time. And I wish I had that in the beginning. And that's why it's good to lean in with the community. Really surround yourself with people that really have a good intention into... Actually, the most successful people in the world, they're the most generous of their time. So look for them. They're willing to mentor you if you're just being respectful. But having a mentor could save you hundreds, if not millions of dollars of mistakes and headaches.
Great. And yourself, Dan?
Yeah, so just like you, I've had the amazing opportunity to talk to amazing people, right? Like billionaires, people creating the future, visionaries. And I have to say, the number one thing when I ask them something similar is grit, because it's a roller coaster ride. As soon as you're up in business, something happens and now you're completely destroyed. And then you're up, you're down, you're up and down. I think that I wish I knew going, it's almost like I'm glad I didn't know, because sometimes ignorance is bliss, right? But I wish I did know that when you have those down slopes, there's always going to be up again, right? You got to have that grit, but also the patience that it's not an overnight thing. And if you stick to it long enough, like if Mr. Beast threw in the towel after a year, he wouldn't be Mr. Beast. You know, he did probably 10 years before anyone really even knew who he was. But I think that's something I wish I knew in the beginning, which I think I learned a lot from her around the grit, because I was more of corporate background. So I was watching her, you know, kind of like side hustle, dabbling and helping. But I saw like the fact that she has more grit than anyone I've ever known. And her mind, like she can battle through things that me, I would just crumble. So, but I think it's a muscle you can learn.
That's
And
right.
I think, and RJ, I think being successful at one thing, like if you hit a lottery at one point, right? I think ego is really in the way of your growth, because sometimes you have this big head, like, oh, I made it a success for this one business, but can you really replicate it? I think, you know, being open to really learning that we don't know everything. I think majority of entrepreneurs that get ahead at one thing and then become like, okay, I know everything, but you know, then you realize you don't have all the information. So being a forever student is really a key, because everything changed. Your consumer changed, and even you has to adapt, right? Like, you know that. But I think being egotistical is really a killer of your growth.
And with that, thanks so much, Kate and Dan, for being here on the show. We really appreciate that. And again, let's just close it again. If people want to work for TEDx, if they want to do TEDx again, how do they get in touch with you guys?
Go to TEDxForbesPark.com and yeah.
And if they want to do the globe, the vibe coding, where do they visit?
Yeah, so globalcouncil.ai.
Globalcouncil.ai. And with that, guys, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Really glad to have you guys here on the
RJ, it's been a
podcast.
pleasure.
What a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thanks so much. And we will see you on the next RJ Ledesma Podcast. Thanks, guys.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.